Assignment 18. Counting on Mom to 100. Is it possible to be mad at someone for being sad? When I got home tonight, Mom was sitting on the couch watching some cooking show on TV, and I sat down next to her and started telling her about the whole Magnet Dari weirdness from earlier this week, about how Twig actually suggested hanging out with someone new, about how she said it was just to get A's, but they got along really well, and she seemed to like being around Dari. I wasn't sure what to make of this new Twig. I wasn't even sure why I was so upset, and I needed a mom. I needed someone to help sort out all this. Mom smiled and nodded along, but I could tell she wasn't really listening. I know she was trying, and I know Dad says this blankness isn't her fault. But none of that mattered to me anymore, because I was sitting right in front of her, and she wasn't listening. Twig and I were working on the egg drop project. I said, thinking maybe, when it came to science, she might pay attention. But the eggs kept breaking, and we'd probably need help. Mom stared off into space before turning toward me, as if she were in slow motion. Sorry, honey, what was that? Looking into her eyes was like peering over the edge of a well and not being able to see the bottom. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to jump on the couch and wave my arms in the air and scream. But I turned away from her bottomless eyes. Nothing, I said, before walking out of the living room and into my bedroom. She didn't try to stop me. I shut my door quietly, because I couldn't quite bring myself to slam it, and I lay down on my bed. I tried to count to 100. Back when I was little and used to throw temper tantrums, Dad would walk me to my room, sit me on my bed, and tell me to count to 100. Once I finished, everything would be okay again. 1, 2, 3. The thing is, Mom was laughing on Thanksgiving. She did it for Grandma. That's trying. But she doesn't care enough to try for me. In the back of my mind, I thought about my winter sickness, about all those days she spent in bed with me, comforting me, refusing to leave me. But I buried those thoughts and counted. When I got to 52, I made a resolution. If she doesn't care about me, I'm not going to care about her. She's not my mom right now. She's an imposter in my mother's skin. I hate her, I hate her, I hate her. December 7th, Assignment 19, 2 plus 1, aka Not So Advanced Algebra. Twig got in trouble today. This should not be surprising, given the eyewash incident and the stolen turtle incident, but it's still annoying. Twig is a person who doesn't know when to stop. To her, the word no is a challenge, and I get why she drives teachers nuts. Sometimes I want to shake her and say, Twig, stop, but of course, that would only make her do whatever she's doing louder. Anyway, she snuck into the teacher's lounge during lunch and drank half a pot of cold coffee, just because she's not allowed to drink it, and she was curious. Basically, she went wild, like Twig times 1,000. She wouldn't stop talking or bouncing around in class. So of course, she had to have a talking to from our principal, which is probably the 100th talking to Twig has had at this school. She told me I didn't have to wait for her after school, but I said I would anyway. I didn't feel like going home yet. Dari was sitting by the lockers again. Of course he was. Since Dari's last name starts with a K, his locker is in the middle of the hallway, halfway between Twig's and my lockers. I thought only losers stayed after school, he said, as I hovered in front of Twig's locker. I don't think I said losers, I replied. He laughed. So why are you hanging around? I walked over to him because it was kind of awkward having a conversation with 15 lockers between us. Twig's in trouble. Well, not trouble. Her parents donate so much to the school that she never really gets in trouble for stuff. I think that might have been an overshare. He smiled but didn't respond. Dari doesn't say much. He's a thinker. And it's like he needs to have his words stored up and ready to go before he speaks. Advanced algebra again? I asked, pointing to the book in his lap. He shook his head and turned his lab notebook for me to see. Oh, I see. Moving closer to look at the diagrams he'd been drawing. That's for the egg drop contest. I wasn't sure why I was so surprised. Of course he was entering the contest. Mr. Neely had mentioned something about Dari and all the best, brightest students being involved. He nodded. I'm investigating acute angles and their effect on impact. Mr. Neely said I could use it for my scientific process project. Right, I said, as if he weren't speaking gibberish to me. I'm doing it too. His grin widened, and I immediately regretted telling him. He was my competition, which probably made him my sworn enemy or something. I don't know. I don't really do competitions. He scooted over on the floor, even though there was plenty of space, so I assumed that was the signal for me to sit. I sat. Have you come up with the design yet? He asked. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. He was talking quickly and blushing again. I don't mean to pry. Mom would have shaken her head at that. A scientist never apologizes for asking questions, she said. Questions keep us alive. No, it's okay. We've come up with designs. They just haven't exactly worked out. He smiled. If you want, we could team up. I hesitated, thinking about splitting the money 3 ways instead of just 2. And then I remembered the magnet project, and also all the eggs Twig and I had broken. Why, I'm sure you can do it on your own. He shrugged matter of fact. I probably can. I was trying to figure out what to say to that when Twig popped out of the stairwell and made her way over, bouncing on her sharpied-up Converse. The 7th grade classrooms are on the top floor of the school, and we hate all those stairs. But Twig never seems winded by the 3-story climb. She glanced down between Dari and me and gave me a weird look. Hi. I stood up quickly, feeling guilty without knowing why. Twig, how'd it go? She rolled her eyes. Principal Nutterbutter thought it would be a good idea for me to learn respect, maybe see a counselor, the usual. See a counselor? I thought about Dad and Mom. My stomach clenched. Twig, I said. Dari offered to team up with us on this egg project. Us? Dari asked, looking between Twig and me. He was grinning like this was the best news ever. The kid was weird. Us? Twig said, gesturing between me and her and making her wannabe intimidating sleepy cat face. Twig and I are working together, I explained, even though I think he'd already figured that out. Great, Dari smiled like he meant it. Twig adjusted the straps of her backpack. We have to go, she informed him and me, and walked off without another word, her footsteps pounding down the stairs. I gave Dari an awkward wave before running after her. Are you okay? I asked once we made it to the first floor. What is it? I'm not smart enough for you? Am I not a good enough partner anymore? She asked. She walked out of school and wouldn't slow down. He volunteered himself, I said. I didn't have anything to do with it, and I figured it couldn't hurt. You're the one who said we should team up with him more often. Yeah, for class. This is class, basically. I couldn't make sense of her. One second she wanted to work with Dari, and the next she didn't. Except we're doing it for fun, too, together. We'd gotten our bikes by then, and Twig swung her leg over the seat, hovering with her tiptoes touching the ground. I unlocked my bike. If he helps us, we'll get A's on our project, and we'll probably win the money. Who cares about money? Twig asked. Like I said, sometimes Twig and I are from totally different galaxies. I care, and it'd still be fun, I promise. Twig sighed up a windstorm, keeping her eyes on her bike. Fine, he can join us. I gotta get home now. My mom is having some supermodel friends over. She pushed her feet against the pedals and left me behind. I couldn't tell if she was lying, but either way, I wasn't invited. Either way, I'd have to go home eventually. When I got home, Mom was in her room with the door shut, so I did the same. I went straight past Dad without saying a word and went to my bedroom and locked the door. Mom's book was still laying on my bed, and I threw it across the room. It hit the wall and landed on the floor face down, spine bent open. The pages crumbled beneath it. I told myself I didn't care, that I never wanted to read a word of that book again. But 5 minutes later, I was on the floor, smoothing out the pages, reading those paragraphs for the 1,000th time, repeating the Latin words like a secret spell. Orchidice Catalia Fortis. Again, don't ask. The 8th graders have the 2nd floor, and the 6th graders have the 1st floor. Supposedly the 3rd floor is better than the 1st, because we don't have to be by the cafegimatorium. But I didn't exactly buy that. I think the teachers just didn't want to scare the brand new 6th graders into switching schools. Technically, it's Principal Nutter Bruder. Can you really blame us for that nickname? December 11th, Assignment 20, due north. It didn't take long for Mr. Neely to get his enthusiasm back. Today in class, he announced we'd continue working with magnets, apparently otherwise known as natural magic. Seriously, I have no idea where Mr. Neely finds all his excitement, but I wish I could siphon some of it off and give it to Mom. Anyway, we broke into groups and made to make compasses. Dari came over to sit with Twig and me. George was back in school today, but he joined Tom, Kay, and Nick without hesitation, as if it was the way it had always been. Nobody else in class seemed to even notice the switch-up, except Michaela, that is, who stared at us from across the room, frowning. I expected Twig to make a scene, like she had a few days ago, but she took a deep breath and stayed silent. Dari raised an eyebrow at her, and she shrugged, and some kind of communication passed between them I couldn't catch. Then he sat down and began writing. Materials: needle, magnet, wax paper, bowl, water. Dari finished our compass quickly and accurately, as expected, and Twig grinned in approval as she copied his notes into her lab book. She leaned in close to him, her long blonde hair forming a curtain between me and Dari's book. So I just played with a couple of leftover magnets, flipping one over so it attracted all of the other magnets on the table, and then turning it so it repelled everything in its path, like, no thanks, not for me. We need a plan of action for this egg drop competition, Dari said once they finished with the lab, and I startled at his voice, at the sound of reality. Aye, aye, Captain, Twig said, all sarcastic. I knew she was still upset from the other day, but I didn't think Dari could tell. He frowned. I don't think I should be the captain here. Twig put her pencil on her lips and said, very seriously, you're right. You're too much of a nerd. Dari considered this. Can I be a mission analyst instead? I like analyzing. Twig squinted at him, and I worried she was going to say something mean, but she said, you can be mission analyst as long as I'm head sheriff. That means what I say goes, and if you mess up, you're out. Instead of getting offended or weirded out like most people would have, Dari said, pleased to make your acquaintance, head sheriff, and laughed and shook her hand. These were things Dari did a lot, laugh and shake hands. Well, okay, I said. I wanted to change the subject. I didn't like the way they were looking at me, as if they were waiting for an answer on a test I hadn't studied for. But let's focus less on these nicknames and more on our egg designs. My voice sounded cactus prickly compared to their light, joking tones, and for a wild second, I worried all the fun had drained out of me. Twig looked at me and raised her eyebrows, then glanced at Dari. All of a sudden, they were a team, and I wasn't sure if I liked it. He did all the work and joked around with her, and maybe she'd replace me. But she smiled. I think we found our captain. Dari laughed and raised his hands to me in salute. Twig did the same, and I did not cry, because it was way embarrassing to cry in the middle of your science classroom. But still, it was pretty nice. Our compass-sized needle floated in our bowl of water on its little wax paper raft, pointing north at me. I'm not sure I know how to be a captain, I said, wishing my voice sounded less serious. They were making this a game, and I was making it weird. But Dari grinned, and Twig laughed. Of course you do, she said, before flicking the compass needle and spinning it round and round.